Hey there, adventurers. I'm Tidewater Teddy, and this is my new series, Tales with Tidewater Teddy. I've been stuck inside during this pandemic, and I've been just reflecting on some of my past experiences and past travels because I'm just going stir crazy here. Anyways, this is the tale of how I saw real-life dinosaurs in an ancient Australian rainforest. And I mean, this rainforest is old. Like over 100 million years old. Literally, dinosaurs roamed these same rainforests millions of years ago, and today they still do.
Tidewater Teddy. Tidewater, 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 Tidewater Teddy.
Let's roll back the clock to April 2013. Back then was when I first arrived in this place called Cairns.
Now, Cairns is a small town in northeast Queensland, and it's kind of boring, honestly. Aside from being in the tropics, so it's pretty warm year-round, but that's pretty much it. The main appeal of Cairns is all the nature that surrounds it. The Wet Tropics World Heritage Area, it surrounds all of Cairns. It's all the rainforests I was talking about that are over 100 million years old. And then, of course, the Great Barrier Reef. You know, Cairns is the place where people go scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef. So when I had first arrived in Cairns, I had been driving a rental camper van that I had brought up from Sydney. So once I got there, I had to turn it in. And I didn't have any kind of transportation. My first few weeks I was walking around Cairns on foot, and I ended up buying a bicycle, which helped me cover a little bit more ground, but I couldn't really go anywhere too far. There were some nice like city parks and botanical gardens and places like that around the city that had some interesting nature, but it was mostly just like herons and mud skippers and geckos and, you know, pelicans and stuff like that, which is, I mean, it's cool, but it's nothing really unique or interesting. But there was one species that I had my sights on, and that is the southern cassowary. Now, the southern cassowary is basically a dinosaur.
If you took one look at one, you'd know exactly what I mean.
Now, cassowaries also have a bad rep for being aggressive and extremely dangerous. Let me read something to you. According to American ornithologist Ernest Thomas Gilliard, the inner or second of the three toes is fitted with a long, straight, murderous nail which can sever an arm or eviscerate an abdomen with ease. There are many records of natives being killed by this bird. For all I know, I was in a Jurassic Park movie and this cassowary was gonna disembowel me.
So, being the reckless early 20-something I was, I had to find one. But there was one teensy problem. I had no way of leaving Cairns. All I had was that bicycle.
At this point, I was feeling pretty stir crazy, pretty stuck in Cairns. I was scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef every now and then, and yeah, that's really cool, but it's also really expensive.
So after a couple months, I finally rented a car, and I had my sights on this place called the Daintree Rainforest.
Now, to get to the Daintree Rainforest, you gotta take a cable ferry. That's pretty much the only way in with a two-wheel drive vehicle. If you got a 4x4, like a Land Rover or a Land Cruiser, you can take some off-road paths to get there. But that is also expensive, so I did not do that. Anyhow, I crossed the river, I drove up into the Daintree, I drove to the motel, and I checked in, talked to the lady at reception, and I asked her, "Have you seen any cassowaries around here?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen plenty of cassowaries. There was a male and his chick, they was coming around here pretty frequently, and people was getting all kinds of photos of them." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Where is he?" And she's like, "Oh, actually, he got hit by a car." So, I'm like, all right, well, you know any places where I can see cassowaries? And she gave me some recommendations, like trails and stuff out there. I can't really remember off the top of my head. So I'm out there driving around the rainforest, looking everywhere I can. Again, I'm just seeing cassowary signs, no cassowaries, just a bunch of forest. So I drive up to Cape Tribulation, look around, don't really see anything. I go on this cruise to see crocodiles in this place called Cooper's Creek. And that was pretty neat because I hadn't seen any crocodiles like this whole time in Australia. Like I'd been there for like, I think 3 or 4 months now, which you think is kind of weird because, you know, everybody thinks of crocodiles when they think of Australia. But the thing is, crocodiles only live in the northern part of Australia. And even in places like Cairns and their range, like a lot of people have hunted them out. And they're kind of like dinosaurs. I mean, they got these big, huge teeth. They're dangerous. They're reptilian. So that was pretty cool. Anyways, after that, drove back to the motel, called it a night. Woke up the next morning, motel owner, I had another pleasant conversation with her, and she told me that there is a giant snake out by the generator room. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, because I have not seen a snake in Australia either. And I've been here months, and it's really embarrassing, because you think, oh, snakes, Australia? Clearly there's snakes everywhere in that country, right? They're just falling out of the ceiling, falling out of the sky. Well, no, I was looking for snakes for months, and I didn't find one. So I go to the back of this generator set, and I see it, and it's this big python, and it's called an amethystine python, also called a scrub python. And this is actually the largest snake in Australia, and it's like the 6th largest snake in the world. And this thing is beautiful. It's got, I know why they call it amethystine now, because the scales are very shimmery, like they've got this this rainbowish glow to them. And thankfully it wasn't venomous, because, you know, I don't want to get killed. Like, I'm not trying to be out here getting bit by something, because also the most venomous snakes live in Australia, and that's no joke. They're very aggressive. Ugh. After I found the snake, I think I was checking out of the hotel I had checked out, and I looked around a little bit for cassowaries again, still didn't have any luck, so I went back across the ferry, explored this place called Mossman Gorge, which is pretty cool. A lot of rainforest, a lot of really unique life, a lot of really clear streams, you know, rapids and stuff. Hiked around the trails. Didn't see any cassowaries there either, so that was pretty discouraging. So I hightailed it back to Cairns, and then the next day I went to this place called Kuranda. And Kuranda is another place where cassowaries are supposed to be really common. So up there in Kuranda, there's this place called Cassowary House. And I'm like, well, geez, there must be cassowaries there. You know, they're probably sipping afternoon tea up there. And I go on the website, I see pictures of cassowaries coming around. I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna see one there. So I go there. I drive up there. I'm in Kuranda. I'm in the rainforest. You know, it looks a lot like the Daintree, and it's only an hour north of Cairns, so it's really close. So I get to Cassowary House, and I ask them, you seen any cassowaries lately? And they're like, yeah, we've been seeing them like every day at like around 4 p.m. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And they're like, but we prefer to have hotel guests and photographers that are paying customers here. And I was like, oh, well, that's pretty reasonable. So they recommended I go to this trail on the other side and see if I can catch the cassowaries before they got to Cassowary House. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go up there. So I go up this trail, and all I see is a freaking couch. So I wait around in the rainforest, no cassowaries. I head back over to Cassowary House, and I'm hoping that maybe the cassowary is there. Well, I get there, and there's a whole bunch of photographers gathered around. I'm like, ooh, this is a good sign. There must be some cassowaries here. They tell me that I just missed them, and I'm like, dang it. So at this point, I'm like, you know, are we just like 2 ships passing the night with these cassowaries, you know, cassowaries and me? Like, what the heck? Like, do they have like a restraining order against me? So anyways, I miss these cassowaries, and I'm pretty bummed. So I talked to the people that worked at Cassowary House, all the staff and the owner, and the lady. She said that when film crews come down there to Cassowary House and they don't see cassowaries, she sends them to this place called Etty Bay. And Etty Bay is about an hour south of Cairns. It's just a beach which is kind of surrounded by rainforest. Fast forward to August. By then, I had purchased a 1992 Ford Falcon station wagon. I was going to use it anyways eventually because I was going to leave Cairns and go drive out in the outback. So now that I got this car, I can cover so much more ground. I go everywhere. I go back up to the Daintree. I go up there with some Italians, and they're really cool. They're really fun. I see a lot of stuff up there. Go on some night hikes and stuff. See some nocturnal wildlife up there. Still no cassowaries. And then I went to Kuranda like so many times. Like I went back to Kuranda so many times trying to find cassowaries. I'm out in the middle of the rainforest and looking for God knows what. Cassowaries, pythons, giant bugs. Yeah, I don't know. Could be anything out here. Or nothing at all. I got stuck in all of these plants with like these thorns on them that are called wait-a-whiles. And they call them wait-a-whiles because they catch your clothes, they hook your clothes, and you'll be waiting a while as you're trying to free yourself from them. You know, just like in this video here. At this point, I was having a run-in with literally everything but cassowaries. I had a run-in with my very first venomous snake in Australia, and thankfully, it wasn't with my foot. I was in Kuranda, I saw this snake on the trail, and the species is called a red-bellied black snake. It's not a particularly aggressive species, but I'm not gonna test that theory. The snake's just chilling out, basking in the sun, unbothered. I'm getting some photos and footage. The next thing I know, this Aussie guy is coming down the other end of the trail. He sees that snake and he's like, "Oi, mate, get out of here, snake." And the snake, he just up and runs. And, you know, I mean, well, he didn't run. The snake didn't run because snakes don't have feet. But you get what I mean. Anyways, the snake starts coming towards me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. But thankfully, the snake is just as scared of me as I am scared of it. So the snake turns around, slithers off into the bushes, and that was that. Now we're into September, early September. I think I go back around Cassowary House the last time. I go back up that little trail. I see that couch I'd seen before, but somebody had torched it. And I guess they had left a car there because I don't remember seeing cars there before. Somebody drove a car up and lit it on fire or something. I don't know how the rest of the forest wasn't on fire because, you know, it's like dry season, but whatever. So I got out of there. I'm not sure if it was at this point that I had talked to the lady at Cassowary House and she told me about Etty Bay, or if I had just gone months without even bothering to go down there. Anyways, the next day I remember finally driving down to Etty Bay, and I go down there, see a big sign, says Cassowaries. My experience with cassowary signs has not been good so far, but I'm not gonna be discouraged. So I go to one of the local restaurants there, a little cafe. I asked the lady that works there, I was like, y'all see any cassowaries? And she said, yeah, we've been seeing them like consistently every day. They come down from the rainforest and down the beach. And I was like, okay. And I just camp out with my camera and I just wait for like an hour or two. And I see absolutely nothing. Not a single cassowary. So I get out of there. I head for this place. I make a big loop around this place called the Atherton Tablelands. I see some waterfalls. I see these cute little wallabies called Mariba rock wallabies. They are an endangered species. And then I saw these stinging trees, which doesn't surprise me because everything's freaking deadly in Australia. Then I just drive back through Kuranda, go back to Cairns, call it a day. So at this point, I didn't think I was gonna see any cassowaries. I was like, I really want to explore the rest of Australia. I bought this car because I wanted to go travel in the outback. I'd set a date like at the end of September I was gonna leave. So anyways, as a spur of the moment decision, I decided, you know, I'm gonna just drive down to Etty Bay and I'm gonna get there in the morning and I'm gonna wait around all day and just see if I see any cassowaries. So I drive down there, get there, I wait around, I sit at this, park myself at this little bench there, and there's this giant monitor lizard, this lace monitor, just wandering around looking for snacks and stuff. And you know, that's pretty cool. You know, they're like dinosaurs. Like I've seen lace monitors everywhere, like in Australia, because they're basically like squirrels. Like, you know, you look up in a tree and all of a sudden, giant lizard. Wow. I was not completely optimistic at this point because I mean I had been burned so many times, but I waited. And I waited, and all of a sudden this bus comes, and it's full of Japanese tourists, and they all got cameras and stuff. And I have mixed feelings because when there's other photographers around, sometimes they get in the way. So I was like, I don't know about this. So next thing I know, the tour guide comes down and he's got his own camera. And he's telling me, he's like, yeah, we come down here because usually the cassowaries are around and they've been coming in the afternoon and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's really encouraging. So me and the Japanese dude, we're just chilling out, waiting around. Wait about 30 minutes. And then the next thing I know, everybody's just getting hype. And then someone's like, look, look, look. The cassowary, there's a cassowary coming down from the rainforest. And I'm like, what? Yes. And guess what? It wasn't just one cassowary, it was two. It was a male and a chick. Because in cassowary culture, cassowary society, you know, whatever you want to call it, the male takes care of the chick. So I was super hyped. I was like, oh my gosh. I was expecting to get just a glimpse of a cassowary out here. I figured I'd be lucky just to get a shot, you know, get a couple blurry photos of one. And here comes this male and his chick, and they're just wandering around, wander through the campgrounds, through the campsites, wander down onto the beach. They're eating all this fruit and stuff. And I'm able to get so close to these cassowaries, and it was phenomenal. Phenomenal. But I got so caught up in all this activity getting close to these cassowaries that I wasn't even thinking about all the other people around me. Next thing I know, the Japanese dude comes up to me. He's like, hey, there's other photographers here that want to get some shots too. Could you step back a little bit so you're not in their shots? And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible. I felt so bad about that. You know, and it's really funny because I was the one who was all like, oh gosh, you know, these other photographers might get in my way. And then meanwhile, I'm the one getting everybody else's way. So I step away, but I'm still getting some really great footage and photos and stuff of the father and his son or daughter. Actually, I have no way of knowing. So next thing I know, everybody's like saying, there's another cassowary. Whoa, 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 there's another cassowary coming. And it's a female, it's a big female. Female cassowaries can be more aggressive, like they're more dominant. And they often will attack the male and kill the chick, you know, in situations. We were all really worried about that. So I see her coming down and pretty much she's getting close to the male and the chick and stuff, kind of rearing up, and I'm like, oh gosh, am I gonna get that footage for YouTube or cassowary attack or something? And I'm really hoping that that doesn't happen. I don't want anything to happen to the male and the chick. And thankfully it didn't, because pretty much as soon as the female showed up, the male and the chick, they just dipped. They just got out of there and they just hightailed it for the rainforest. And the female's down there, she's eating the fruit and stuff, everything that's left over that the male and the chick didn't get. I was actually able to get close to her too. She didn't really care about me. She didn't mind me too much because she was just doing her own thing. I guess the cassowaries in Etty Bay, they're more accustomed to people. So I was able to get close, get some more shots. And by now, like, the sun's starting to set, so there's a lot of really nice lighting. I got some really good shots just like these. So much for getting disemboweled or whatever, because these cassowaries seem to be pretty chill, pretty acclimated humans, no problem. The moral of the story is, if you really want something, go for it. Sometimes you have to do the same thing over and over again, and it can be discouraging. Other times you need to change things up, and it might pay off. But just keep going on what you're doing. Spending that afternoon on the beach with those cassowaries was one of the most unforgettable experiences in my entire life. You can look at those cassowaries and you can just see how they're descended from dinosaurs. You can just see the dinosaur in that animal. Now, on that note, have you ever had any crazy adventures or insane encounters with wildlife? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Tidewater Teddy, because I'll be putting out more of these tales, more documentaries, and more of my 1-minute nature shows and all kinds of other content. So thank you so much for joining me on this adventure, and have a great day.